So isn't it wild how much misinformation there is about anxiety that you can't even get basic answers about anxiety, like why did this happen? Why am I feeling this way? Can I even recover? Even this notion of is recovery even possible? Is this just something you manage? Depending on who you ask, you'll get different answers. And you, who's just trying to get out of this and just go back to living your life, you're not able to get an answer. So if you can't really get an answer, how can you fully recover? Or is recovery not even possible? This is exactly what I went through years ago. I, much like you, was online trying to figure out all this stuff. Why was this happening? When I'd go to a doctor, they said, well, look, it's a chemical imbalance. It's something that you're gonna have to deal with for the rest of your life. When I went to a therapist, they said, well, it's from childhood trauma. Or I'd go to a nutritionist and they said it was from my diet. Everybody would happen to tell me that it was something and that it was just something that was manageable. And yet I would hear about these people who had mysteriously recovered. I heard about these people that were able to recover and just fully live their lives. And I was always wondering, I'm like, is recovery even possible? Are they just lying? Are they just trying to sell something? Most people that, say that they have the cure to anxiety, they're trying to sell their product, whether that's, CBD, oil or an anxiety toolkit, whatever that is, info product, whatever it may be, they feel like they have the solution. The only way you can get it is by looking at their solution. And every time I would buy their products, it would get nowhere. I would get no way in recovery. And so that's what I really want to talk about in this video. Is recovery possible? How is it even possible? Now, to give you a little bit of a background, I'd actually suffered from anxiety and panic attacks years ago, and I actually also fully recovered. And I'm gonna show you exactly how I recovered. No, there's no products thing, there's nothing like that. This is just giving you pure raw information on exactly what helped me. And you could go ahead and copy and paste this in your exact same solution. So this answer isn't for everybody, but if you really resonate with what I'm about to say, chances are you're probably struggling with the same thing I was. So stay tuned. So I suffered my first panic attack when I was 22 years old. That was about a little over 8 years ago. And when I suffered my first panic attack, I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what this was. I thought I was gonna die. And it was so bad, it was so scary that, like many people, I ended up going to the hospital. And they ran all these tests and doctors were trying to figure out what was going on. And they looked at the paperwork and they're like, hey, you're fine. I don't know what it is, but it looks like you're fine. So I had my first panic attack, and once that went away, I tried to pretend everything was fine. I felt like I was trying to act like nothing was wrong, but I always had this fear because when I had my first panic attack, it just happened out of the blue. It felt like I didn't even control it. I didn't know why it happened. And I felt like there was really no place I was safe. I felt like no matter where I went, it was lurking behind the corner, and I could get a panic attack literally anywhere. I had it in an office when I was working a corporate job, but what if it happened if I was driving? What if I lost control? And I kind of had that in the back of my mind, and I was trying to figure it out in a way. About a couple of weeks later, I had my next panic attack, and when I had my next panic attack, that's when I totally spiraled downward. I started getting nervous that there was something really physically wrong with me. I started going to doctors, trying to figure out, trying to get this assurance seeking. I started getting debilitating physical symptoms. I started getting these what if thoughts, what if doctors miss it? What if it's something serious, but by the time they find it, it's too late? All these thoughts were kind of going through my mind, and I just felt like I had to figure all this out. I felt like no matter who I went to, they were just like, yeah, no, you're fine. And after a certain amount of time, they said, look, it's just anxiety. This is something you have to deal with for the rest of your life. And I just wanted to get better. I just wanted to get better so I could just go back to doing what I was loving. And I just didn't want to waste my life because of something like this. This is no way to live. So I was really trying to figure this out, and as I was trying to figure it out, I started getting depersonalization. I started feeling disconnected from the world. I started getting this foggy brain where I felt like I couldn't concentrate, and I could tell I was getting worse. And I started trying everything. Then I got desperate. Then I started trying to take meds. I tried to do any sort of alternative medical route. I started exercising more. I started eating right, and I still just wasn't feeling better. And I was trying to figure this out. I'm like, look, depending on who I ask, they're going to tell me that they have the answer, but I just want the right answer. And so I ended up trying to take meds, but you know, meds didn't really help, and I was still suffering from panic attacks. I was still having debilitating anxiety. So I knew that wasn't the route. I tried everything, and I just couldn't figure out an answer. And much like many of you guys, I was on the internet, I was on forums, I was Googling everything, just trying to find an answer, and I just couldn't get it. And really, my pinnacle point really started when it was actually on my birthday. It was my 23rd birthday, and I woke up with kind of a panic attack. And so, like normal, I went to an ER. I went to the ER. My mom took me to the ER, and the doctor looked at me right away, and he's like, "There's nothing wrong." I could tell, like, you're not sick. You're really not. And I got really upset because I felt like before this, a lot of people were trying to tell me that whatever was going on was in my head. But that's not true, because I was getting physical symptoms, and these were real physical symptoms. So there's no way this was just in my head. And the doctor was like, "Look, we can do whatever test you want, but I can tell you for sure you're going to be clear." So I was in the ER for a day, and I did a series of procedures. Anything that bugged me, anything that affected me, I just let them know, and they ran every test. And everything came out clear. And I was shocked. I was surprised. Every small thing, everything that I thought, they said, "Look, there's nothing there. Like, we've searched you extensively, and we haven't found anything." And that's when I realized, oh my God, is this anxiety? Is this how anxiety works? And that was really my turning point, where I started understanding, okay, maybe anxiety isn't just something that's in the mind. Maybe anxiety, because it's so focused on survival, is the body and the mind, because it's the fight or flight mode. Maybe all these symptoms I'm getting is a result of that. And so what I started doing was started to research a little bit more about anxiety, and I found great material out there. I found material from the pioneer of anxiety, Claire Weeks, which has an awesome book that kind of explains this stuff. I'll put the link down below. Paul David is another great he had a great book that came out that also really helped me at the time. But I was still struggling. I still couldn't figure it out. And so I used those books, but you know, recovery, I still kind of had to figure it out on my own. I realized that maybe recovery wasn't gaining something from the outside, but actually recovery comes from within. And so I started focusing on that. I started focusing on trying to get better naturally, try to focus on relying on myself to overcome. And I made a ton of mistakes. And just to give you even a better answer to really understand how I was able to recover so that you can get it, I'll put a link down below. I've essentially written out a report, and this is exactly how I recovered. These are the exact same steps that I've recovered from, and that I pretty much give my clients who are struggling with the same thing. And this report is absolutely free. Before, I was really protective about it. I didn't want to share it because I knew this was something that you can't really tell somebody. You almost have to teach somebody. But you know, because so many people have asked, I've just made a report. And the link down is below. But really, once I started focusing on long-term freedom, recognizing that these were my symptoms, that it was going to be there temporarily, it made things better. When I started allowing the symptoms to be there and just focus on recovery, just focus on living life, slowly and steadily the symptoms just started disappearing until I ultimately got free. So why is there so much misinformation out there? Why is there some people that say this is something you deal with forever? There's some people that have actually overcome. Well, it comes to how you deal with anxiety. See, there's two different routes to handling anxiety. There is the managing and coping, which is pretty much what our society is designed for. Our society, any advice that you get about anxiety is always about managing. It's always about coping. And that works to a certain degree. You know, if you're nervous about a test, if you're worried about giving a presentation, coping with anxiety is one thing. But when you're really struggling with anxiety, when you have physical symptoms, when your nervous system is very sensitized, when you're in this constant fight or flight mode, which is totally not appropriate, managing and coping isn't the answer. You know, you really need to focus on overcoming it. Once I realized that distinction, I focused on overcoming, and that's a decision you're going to have to make. Is this something that you want to keep managing, coping? There's a bunch of solutions out there. There's a bunch of techniques. There's, you know, everybody has a coping mechanism that, you know, you just have to try and find out what works for you through process of elimination. Or you can focus on overcoming, and that's what we really focus on. And that's what I was always serious about. That's what exactly my clients are serious about. They're not really focusing on just getting a little bit better. They expect ultimate freedom. And, you know, that's what we really focus on here. So the point is this: with the internet, with Google, there's a lot of great information out there, but with that great information, there's a lot of great misinformation out there. So you have to be very careful on where you look at, what you watch, especially when you're struggling with anxiety, you're in a highly anxious state. Anything that seems like the worst case scenario seems the most likely in your case. So if you really want to know, well, how did I overcome? How do I get other people to overcome? How do other people just overcome in general? I'll put a link down in my private Facebook group. These people are serious about fully overcoming. These people are not people that are dabblers. These are not people that are just trying to find some tips or tricks. Many of these people have either fully recovered or they're on their way to recovery. And a lot of them I'm even helping personally take them step by step to full recovery. So if you're serious about it, hit that link down below. When you hit that link, it's going to ask you 3 questions. It's very important you answer those 3 questions to the best of your ability. You know how the internet is. It's pretty crazy. It's very easy to scare other people or get assurance seeking. This group is not about that. This group has a lot of integrity. We're focused on fully overcoming. We're focused on giving you steps and action plans to help you fully overcome, not just kind of feel better at the moment. And so we screen very hard because we just don't want anybody to join the group. We want people that are serious about it. So if that's you, hit that link down below and I'll see you guys inside. Take care.